The photography and video show, NEC versus ExCeL London. The review. No BS. BS, no BS. Hi, I'm Khandie. Welcome. If you're listening on the podcast, hi. If you're watching this, hi. You'll understand how bedraggled I look. I mean, what's going on with this side of my hair? Very fluffy. This side flat. You can tell which side I sleep on at night. I am shattered, and in the best kind of way. It's like that post-festival tiredness. You know you've had a great time, but you've also got to sleep for 4 days. So a quick rundown. I have been to both. I've been to ExCeL myself for other things. I've been to NEC for the photo show lots, and I've also been and I've got videos here so you can watch for my time at the NEC in Birmingham. Now this time, once again, I was speaking at the photo show, but not just only on their new stage at the Fundamental, which was right at the entrance and was massive, but also I was speaking at the British Institute of Professional Photographers stand quite a few times. In fact, every single day I was speaking. Monday was my manic day. Monday I was speaking on the Fundamental stage. I was speaking at the BIP stand. I was doing a networking event at the Boca Bar. I was also doing a panel for the 10 in 10 at the Pro networking thing where I made people laugh about my story about how I nearly got arrested. It's hilarious. Don't worry. One day I'll tell you, but right now we're not going to get into that. I also had meetings galore with brands. I did not realize how many people want to meet me. I'm going to ego fluff myself here and just say I have made some very, very good moves. I also remembered last second that a piece of my work was on display in one of the galleries. So I had to run and try and get a photo. And then as I was leaving, the woman said, you can take it home with you. So on Tuesday evening, as the show closed, I was yanking it off the wall and then proceeded to walk through the whole of London with it. It managed to get home safely. So yeah, I'll insert a picture of it here somewhere for you. I mean, everything in my brain was so fuzzy. If you're on the podcast, you won't see that. So yeah. Also, if you're watching this on the YouTube video, please excuse the lighting. I am doing this quick because I'm shattered. I'm tired. Your girl worked hard. Your girl talked a lot. She's tired. And new hair. You won't be able to see this again on the podcast, but imagine McDonald's made hair colour out of their logo. That's where we're going, yellow and orangey red. Anyway, so I want to talk about, I'm going to get the niggles out the way because I think everybody it's been quite a negative vibe about it being in London. And at first I didn't get it because it's a great venue. I've been there loads. Also, the photo show and the video show do not mess up. Their organisation is incredible. As a speaker and as an attendee, I got emails telling me what I needed to know. I'm going to tell you something. There's something I wish they would include a little bit later on, but that's not, that's an optional thing. But I got told as a speaker, I knew exactly what I was doing, where I was going, even down to, hey, here's your purchase order, so we get your invoice paid quick. All of that stuff, right? And I love that. The team, Ruth, everyone, they were just fantastic. And they always have been. So even the move didn't make any difference to me. And they were on the floor making sure we were okay. I met the director of the show. It was just fantastic. I loved it. I know people are unhappy. There's a few things. Now, these I want to stipulate are not the show. The show can't do much about this. It's what we call the London problem. Firstly, London is not disabled access friendly. I don't care how many plans and things they put into place, it is not. The lifts aren't always working. You can arrange for accessibility from help from the train staff, but they don't always show up. On my way home on the Tuesday, there was two ladies who were really struggling, and they'd been at the photo show randomly. I didn't know when I offered to help them that they'd been at the photo show, not that that matters, who were struggling with their cases, and I was laden with mine, and I was like, they were buzzing for help, and no one would come and help them, or they couldn't hear their help. I'm not really sure what happened. And I ended up lugging their cases up for them and then making sure they got onto the platform okay at Euston. I was aware of one of my friends who's in a mobility chair, how blinking awful it was for them to get there. Now, once you got to the venue, there's ramps everywhere and disability was great. A few issues with the lifts to the toilets, but they said that was mainly because people were using them, which is great because they needed them, obviously. But it was getting there, the whole process of getting it. Now, I think one thing that the photo video show could do really greatly is just talk about maybe the more disabled access to get to the venue, as in what are the junctions perhaps, but that I understand that's quite a labour intensive thing. There are a lot of websites already cover this, but I think it would be quite nice if they said, if you're struggling to get the venue for accessibility, here is a website that suggests routes, or maybe they could link it to somebody who knows. Another side note is, because the space is so big and there was a lot of a noise, and there always is at these venues. A nice little quiet room would have been helpful. I know people are going to be like, what do you mean? But as somebody who was speaking, and as somebody who's a gobby and loud, whatever you want to call me, even I got overwhelmed. There were flashes going off constantly on one stand because people were testing things. And as I was there, I was like that, getting, thought I was in a rave at one point. And there was a lovely lady, probably got the name of her society wrong, but she does something for the Society of Spectrum Photographers, so people who are neurodivergent. And I couldn't help but notice that it was the commotion and the noise was getting loud. And one lovely person I've spoken to who identified themselves as autistic said they were really struggling to find a quiet space to go so that they could just decompress for a few seconds to then enjoy the show again. I know that in the past they have had this sort of breakout space, but because it was so open plan, they said that they were struggling. I don't know if that's an option for the future. I hope it is. That's something they can do, because I think inclusivity needs to be inclusive. There was one incident that is nothing to do with the show, but to do with two punters that attended the show who made absolutely appalling comments about two people who were on the stage in a way that I'm not going to go into, but needs to say they were removed from the venue. And by not by security, but by us sort of calling them out and saying that's not okay. And I think they panicked because we'd heard what they said and they absconded off. We're not going to go into that, but I'm not going to say that's a London issue or a show issue. That's something that happened. I don't stand for that kind of language being used, and I think anyone in society would not stand for that language being used. And I'm proud that other members of the community who also heard it stood with me, and nothing was a big deal from us, but they were embarrassed that they'd been heard. I don't know who they were, and I want to keep that way because I don't want to have them get any. I hope that the embarrassment of them being heard what they said was enough and they changed their ways. That's all I'm going to say on that. I really enjoyed the stands. I think the stands that were there were a lot more. There was a lot more to do. I don't know if that was just because everyone had a brand refresh or something happened, but there was so much. I mean, I loved the Nikon stand. Now, I'm a Nikon shooter currently. I say currently because you never know. I love that they had these stages you could play in. They had this one with faux flowers all on what's it called? Fishing wire? I don't know if that's what you call it. Beautiful. People were playing in that and it was nice. And they had this beautiful pan-painted canvas backdrop where people, they were doing demos, and that was really nice. They had a big stand, and it was nice to see Nikon really big, because in the past, Canon really pulls the bag out. Canon had a tuk-tuk stand and everything. They really pull the bag out. And sometimes I feel like Nikon don't necessarily. It's not as wow impactful. I mean, and I'm an extra and I love them, but Canon definitely have I don't know, maybe it's because their branding's red and it's more eye-catching. I don't really know. But Canon definitely seem to have a big thing going on. Nikon, they have their stand, and they have a stand where people do talks there. One day, if I'm ever asked, I'll go. If Nikon wants, I'm still shooting Nikon and they like me, one day I will be there. This is me doing, put it out in the universe. I was speaking on the fundamental stage for one of my chats. That was the new stage to be there. And that was quite daunting because as you came in, it was right there. And it was the only one that I believe was back to back with another stage. I didn't hear the other stage who was right behind me. But I don't know if they heard me, and I apologize, but I'm not responsible for the mic volume. But I had people cheering and people were happy. I was really the director of the show was apparently there, and I met him and I was like, oh, but he was very nice, so don't worry, I don't think I was in any trouble. I signed my first autographs. People brought my book and asked me to sign autographs, and one beautiful lady came to the stand at the BOPP stand where I was about to do another seminar and had my book. And she, the link's in the bio if you want to buy it, link in the description, sorry. And she handed it to me and it was highlighted. She'd gone through the highlighter, highlighting bits that she'd loved. And she was like, it just really spoke to me. It was exactly what I needed to hear. It made me really emotional because she divulged parts of her life that I'm going to remain private. I don't think that's for public consumption, that really hit hard with me. And she was saying my book helped her. And I was like, oh, thank you. I was just like, I'm going to well up now. It really meant a lot, but also it was such a, I'm tired and now I'm emotional. This is a recipe for tears on YouTube. Oh, 1 second. Right, sorry, I was taking a sip out of a china cup that's, is it fine bone china? It's fine bone china, and I've drunk it all now, and it's 70 style. It's very cute. That was a moment for me. I had so many people coming to chat to me, and I mean this is like I know when people say I'm so humbled when people spend their time with me. No, I really was. Like, I don't consider myself an anybody. And I'm speaking on that stage and I looked out and it was standing room only. In fact, people were coming to sit on the carpeted space at the front and because to listen to me. And I got cheers and a couple of brands said, we heard you talk. We need to have meetings, Khandie. We need to be having meetings. And while I was there, I got an email about a really cool job that I've been formally accepted for. And it was just like a good omen. I had a great time. I think like, even the model pods, I think it was Creativity Hub did them. Yes, they did. They were great. They were so stylized and so beautiful. And we had diverse models. I want to see more. I would love to see more that shape diversity if possible, because I feel like the models they had were stunning. They were stunning. They always are, mate. They always are. There's no, but I feel like it would be an educational process to have more diverse bodies. And that's just something I'm going to put out there. I don't know if who's in charge. It'd be nice. I think it'd be nice. I think it would be good. I also loved the creator stage area, which is like a setup where you can go play. I think it was a bad idea to have the Scrabble things because people were spelling rude words. We saw this. It was funny, but there were children walking around and some of them saw some rude words. And I did not do this. In fact, I stopped someone who wrote the C word and I swapped it over to say can't. CANT. Okay, I changed it because I was a little kid. I did see that the building block one got a little damaged. Lots of people were jumping in the ball pool. That was great, except they were in it for ages, which meant that not a lot of people could use it at times. But that's it's fun factor. The balls went everywhere. And it was cute. I did like it. I did think it was very sweet. I did think it was really nice. I from a personal perspective, I loved last year's at the NEC, but that's because they had the neons and I was obsessed, but I do see how great this one was equally. I loved all the little stages everywhere. There were so many, and I think it was great. What I loved particularly was that the analog was given more presence. When I say the analog was given more presence, that's not to say that it hasn't got a stance in the other ones, but here at the ExCeL, it definitely seemed to be pushed more into the front. There was a bigger space. It felt like there was a lot more promotion for it. And that's because I feel that London really embraces film photography because there's a lot of students who really love film. One guy said, oh, there's loads of hipsters. And I was like, no, there's people just love film. And I love that they had loads of different brands that were selling film. Obviously, I'm an Analog Wonderland Ambassador alumni, so I was buzzing to see them. I took some film photos go around. I love it. People coming up to me saying, I've bought this, look at this film. And we all made a mad rush on open day to the Disabled Society of Photographers, the Society of Disabled Photographers. Sorry, I've got that right. We all made a mad dash there. I dropped some hard dollars there. I love these guys. These are probably one of my favorite stands ever. Not only are they so helpful and knowledgeable and amazing humans, they have such a great selection of cameras. I mean, they have film, they have some old school digital, and they're just lovely, and I love them, and they will forever be one of my favorite stands. There were some really good ones. I even got to take some pictures. Now, I need to disclose that I only took my pictures the last day because I was so nervous about Monday. So I was rammed on Monday. Saturday, Sunday, I was focused on getting my talks at the BIP done and meeting and greeting people. And then Tuesday, which was the last day, I went, I've got to go do something. I need to get some content for you guys. So I took some pictures and I'll put them all here. Chloe, Brian, and Gavin, obviously, they're my people. I love them on the Pixel Pro stand. These are just some fun photos. You'll see if you look closely on Gavin's watch, which if you're on the podcast, you won't see, but if you go to my Instagram, you'll see it. That's at Khandie Photo. I'll put the link somewhere for that. You can see 4:22 I took those pictures, which means it was in the last 40 odd minutes of the show where everyone's absolutely tired, which is probably why Gavin was so open to standing in the hole in the paper backdrop. Anyway, I also did this weird 360 video thing where it's just me and I met some friends. I got interviewed. It was good. From me perspective, it was great. Me, myself and I, we had a blast. I think that's down to how amazing the team are behind the scenes, the layout. I do know, though, there was backlash of some description online, and I think that's got to do with a lot of the financial implications, and I would be amiss if I didn't address those. Firstly, the accessibility issue. The venue itself seems to be pretty accessible from the people I was talking to. A couple of niggles, but people said that this was great. It's much like the NEC, it's very accessible. However, getting to the venue is a whole different thing. London is not the most accessible. There were lots of problems. NEC, you can either get there on the train or drive there. There's lots of parking available. London, you have to arrange the parking and it's exhausting. Sometimes you have to pay congestion charge, all of that stuff, okay? One woman said it took her an hour and a half to go 1.8 miles in London. And I was like, whoa, yeah. Also the cost. So a room at the hotel nearby was £200 for the Saturday night. The same room would only cost me £70 on the Sunday night. It's crazy prices. The pub nearby that was doing pub food kept running out of food. At one point we had to choose 4 different options to get one we wanted. We were like, well, they had a sign out saying pizza and something night, and the pizza was all gone and they couldn't make cocktails. We were like, okay, not that that's a big thing, but they're not to do the ExCeL, but there was issues with that. We won't talk about the coffee in the venue. We won't. There was no decaf, which is a me problem, not a you problem. But just no. I got a cup of tea that looked like dirt water, but honestly, you could get that anywhere of an issue. So I'm not talking about that. Personal gripe. My tea. Leave the tea back in. I can do it myself. But whatever, there's a Costa outside if you want to buy. I mean, if you like Costa. There was also Starbucks if you like Starbucks. I mean, there was options. There was other options there to buy coffee. So I'm just griping about that because I'm tired. I did know when I was speaking to a couple of the brands, they really struggled to get their staff and their store holders places to stay en masse. A lot of them had to stay at the far, like zone 6 of London. Some were staying as far out as Stratford, which if you don't know is the end of the line. I didn't mean it was a long commute, but that meant, at the end of the day, they were doing all that work, then slogging off on a train, going there and then having to get back. For me, myself, I did stay in London for one of the nights. I was offered a hotel, but I wanted to travel in with somebody. So at one point, my partner and I went home. I will say, to try and make my talk on time, I had to travel in rush hour, not rush hour, it's called peak hour, which meant that I was normally costing me 30 quid a ticket return was costing me nearly 60, 70 pound. That's an irk. But it is what it is, isn't it? And then obviously you have the underground costs, which is, whatever they are. I ended up using Uber a few times, mainly because there was the underground was so packed and I had all this equipment and, everyone on the underground hates if you bring equipment. That's a me problem, but I do think that needs to be acknowledged financially. It's a bit more. And I know that my friends who are further up north said we just financially cannot justify the train costs. Parking alone, it was a lot. Now in Birmingham, I know it's more central, so you are all paying, but it's motorway accessible. If the trains go down, like they did in London, the Elizabeth line and the digital SLR, the digital SLR line. Have you heard of that one? The DLR went down until 12 on one of the days, which meant there was a distinct lack of people coming through the door. That was not the ExCeL's fault, but that's another factor because if the trains go down or there's a train strike for the Birmingham one, most people can get in the car and know there's parking for them. It's a very different aspect. We are in London, so it's got that. I do think there was a lot more younger people coming through the door in the London one, and that's not a bad thing. I don't just mean younger in age. I mean younger in experience. I spoke to a lot more amateur, lower level experienced photographers who are very keen to learn. Birmingham definitely seemed to be a lot more experienced photographers talking and wandering around. I don't know if that's because there seems to be more universities and younger people in London. Obviously, it's a greater, denser population. I don't know, there was a lot more. And I think there was a really lovely drive to get younger people in. I saw a lot of lecturers walking around with their and college teachers walking around. Do they call them teachers in college? Or they, I don't know, college educators walking around with their students. I met some great kids who were actually in school or on a day trip there. I got to chinwag with them and I had a blast. I was called cool, so I think that makes me cool, or is cool now used in a negative term? And I'm actually embarrassing. I don't know. I had a blast. Like I genuinely loved it. I mean, the kids, they're not kids, they're young adults, were happy to chat to me, asking me loads of questions. I had selfies taken with me. It was surreal. Like I honestly, I had such a good time. There was minor niggles. Most of these niggles were nothing to do with the show, very little to do with the ExCeL, and a lot to do with the stuff outside the ExCeL. Do I think they need to do it every time? I am not sure I am going to think it's a good idea to do 1 year at NEC, 1 year in London. I think you're going to see attendance and stuff doing this, jumping up and down. I do think there was a lot less people over the 4 days of the show compared to Birmingham. Birmingham definitely had a steady, for me in the past as an attendee and somebody who's spoken there, has a very steady stream. Maybe I'm looking at it wrong. London seemed to be a lot quieter on certain days and then was rammed on the Sunday, it seemed, quite busy on the Monday and then quietish on the Tuesday. It seemed to have peaks. Again, though, with the train going down, it was quiet and then you had the rush of people. I also, one of the things I'm going to point out about the ExCeL is that they have quite strict rules on taking photographs outside, which is hard for photographers, especially when one of the shows was a dance show that was going on in one of the other halls and you were told no. And I saw some security guards saying, you can't take photos here, you can't do photo shoots here. So, I mean, some people on their mobile phones taking it, but they were a little bit like, no, you can't. And it was we were told about this. And one of the things I love, though, that there was a lot more photo walks. I know there is in Birmingham, but the NEC in Birmingham is like in an area where the surrounding area isn't much going on. Okay, there's like Frankie and Benny's and stuff like that, but like there's not much creative like you could do there. I mean, you could, because sometimes they have the Comic Con going on, but there wasn't much like you could like for a photo walk. That it would ultimately take you away from the venue. Whereas the photo show in London, you were able to like literally just step out and see these amazing photo walk opportunities. And it was so lovely to see those happening. I will just say that for me was such a lovely thing to do. And I hope they do more of those. I really enjoyed those. I wish they still had the podcast spot. So I don't know if you remember at the NEC previously, they had like a sofa where the lovely presenter would, and he's got the best voice, hasn't he? Like he interviewed me and I was like, your voice is amazing. And he's a really nice guy, like genuinely a really nice guy. He had this spot at the NEC one where he would sit and interview people and you could go and watch it. I don't know if they had that this year and I couldn't see it because I always like going and listening and then I listen back on the podcast because the photo and video show, I need to remember to add the video bit, has a great podcast. It really does. And I highly recommend if you haven't, go and listen. It's really good. But I miss that element. I wish there was some quieter rooms as well so people could do like, just like I mentioned, like maybe a little quiet room for people to decompress, but also just some quiet rooms to be able to maybe have meetings because as ever, there's never enough seats. It doesn't matter how many seats you park, there's never going to be enough seats. And also it's very loud. And one thing about the Pro Lounge, which is where the pro photographers can go and have like a private breakout area, is you are just sat next to the other coffee shops. And one of my friends said, do you feel like you're in the zoo and you're the animal? And I was like, what do you mean? And he's like, everyone's just looking at you while you're drinking coffee because it's an open space. I was like, I kind of like it because I'm full of ego today. But yeah, it was one of those. I don't know if we need a Pro Lounge anymore. Like, I don't know, maybe do we? It's a nice thing, but if it's right next to the already existing where everyone else is sitting, like, I don't know. Do we need a Pro Lounge? I would like maybe a Pro Lounge that was away from people would be good so we could decompress as people who were speaking and stuff. But we had a speaker's room, which I didn't realize was there until someone pointed out it was there. I did get shown it and my brain just forgot it because after I was pointed out to it again, I went, oh no, I definitely got shown this. My brain just like eradicated it. It had chocolate biscuits in it. I did not indulge in those, but I saw that. The only thing is that it was just a door. I don't think there was any security to it. Like people could wander in. That being said, I don't think there was nothing dodgy going on. We heard rumors that things had been lifted from stands, but I don't know how true they were because everyone was talking. Would I choose the NEC or the ExCeL? Which one would I say? Now, I am going to say both have absolute mind, like just brilliant in so many different ways. If I was desperately going to choose, I would say NEC for accessibility and the amount of people who seem to attend. That being said, I do know why they went to the ExCeL. There was a very different vibe of people attending. It was a lot more people. I love seeing the more university students, college students, high school students coming. I love that. Maybe I missed that at the NEC and they did arrive. I just didn't see them. I love it. I love the analog was definitely pushed more. There was a lot more people interested in the analog than I've seen previously when I walked past. They were always rammed with people talking to them. I think that's a great thing. I don't think they did wrong going there. Financially, it was hard for a lot of people to take that responsibility and that ability to go. So for me, just based on that purely, just the finances, NEC. I'm not saying they shouldn't come back to London, but I definitely think financially, and given how hard and all the stuff that's going on in the world right now, we are all looking to save money. I would say the NEC. That's purely the only reason. But maybe it's a case of they do 4 years at the NEC or a couple of years at the NEC and then they go back to the ExCeL. That's it. But I had a blast and I had an utter, and I always have, I've never had a bad time here. Never, no matter where the location, I think this is the first time they've moved location. I've always had a blast. And I hope you have too. I appreciate everyone who came to my talk. I appreciate everyone who stopped at the BIP stand to see all my talks. 4 days of talking, 4 days of networking, some amazing stuff's happening for me. I cannot wait to share that with you. I sold books, I signed things, I nearly just told you what else has just happened, but I can't. But I honestly, my work was up on the gallery. I completely forgot. As I was leaving on the Tuesday, someone said, Khandie, don't forget to take your picture. I was like, oh my God, where is it? I had to rush to the gallery. It was there. I took a selfie. I'll post it somewhere here. If you haven't, you can see it on my stories on Instagram, or I'll just share it at a point. You go watch on YouTube if you're listening to the podcast. I ripped it off the wall because we were told to, and I made it all the way home to London with it. And now I'm going to go die in a small heap because I'm absolutely shattered. If you are listening to the podcast, give this a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe to the podcast. If you're listening to this on YouTube, subscribe, like, comment, tell me what you loved. I'd love to share. Did you go? Why didn't you go? What were your insights into it? Because I want to know. Maybe I've missed something. I probably have. I loved it, but I also have a very huge soft spot for the NEC. I hope to see you there next year. I should be there. Oh, fingers crossed if they want me back or people do. I had a blast, but I also aware that's just my opinion and it could be completely wrong. But have a great day. I need to sleep now. By the way, do you like my new hair color? If you're on the podcast, you're not seeing it, but I've got orangey red hair. Well, it looks more orange here with yellow, kind of like McDonald's logo colors.